Like, I don't want to just say if you're not having fun with it, you're not doing it right. But that's kind of true, especially if you're going to make video games. I think one of the biggest things for as far as game creation stuff goes is I go back to Reggie from Nintendo is if it's not fun, why bother? I 100% agree with that. Unless your literal intention is to make an art piece, um, which I think is like people shit all over Death Stranding, and once again haven't played it, but I mean, it's a walking simulator. It's not a difficult concept to grasp, but it's more of an art piece. Whereas like Metal Gear Solid and when he did those were, I mean, they were still art pieces. They were absolutely batshit insane, and I will say that man is he is actually fucking insane. Like he wanted to make the end boss fight. Not to spoil anything for MGS3, but there is a sniper battle that you fight, and it takes for fucking ever. Like it is, you are going to like before the fight starts. If you know it's coming up, go take a piss, grab some snacks, fucking get some water because you are going to be there like for literal hours. Like it's ridiculous. He wanted to make it a lot worse. Well, not worse, but a lot longer. And to to bring it full circle, Kojima had a very interesting idea for a horror game back when you made them on floppy disks. Is he wanted to coat the top of the floppy disk in a you want to talk about immersion? This next thing, he wanted to coat the top of the floppy disk in a thin layer of copper, so that as you played the game, it would burn off the copper and your room would start to smell like blood. And they were like, we are not going to do that. There are some legal issues that, no, you can't do it. And he's all like, cowards. You fucking cowards. Like, if you actually gave Kojima resources to make whatever game he wanted, you would, I don't even know if it would work. Like, he's legitimately insane. But, like, what he comes up with is, you gotta give it to the guy. He's absolutely novel. But if we're talking about like putting a lot of heart and soul into something and like making something that's your own, I think the couple of indie developers I can think of are like Undertale by Toby Fox and Yacht Club. And I love what Yacht Club did with it's on my list of the millions of games I still need to play. But Shovel Knight made by Yacht Club, I think one of the most appreciative things is that Yacht Club, whenever they came out with a DLC, if you had the base game, you got the DLC for free. Because they're like, well, you already believed in our product, so here's a little extra on top. And you just don't see that. You just don't see that in any of like the big industries, that kind of stuff. I mean, sometimes, but for the most part, you don't. Like, EA don't do that shit. EA does the opposite of that shit. And I think that's why, like, especially now that tools are like there's literally like Game Maker where you can make your own stuff. Now that it's much more accessible, there's more indie developers, and I think that's just the best thing for gaming, because there's plenty of people out there with great ideas, and now more than ever, people are able to go out and make their own shit, and make what they believe would be a good game, and I would way rather like this dude like in a basement worked for 8 years. I would rather spend my money on his hard like fought work for his piece than pretty much any AAA title. There are some exceptions. Like there are some studios that don't miss. Like Studio Santa Monica, the last God of War was an absolute the last God of War was so good that if the next God of War is a PS5 exclusive, I will have to get a PS5. Like that is probably the only game that will sell that system to me, because otherwise I could not give a shit. But for the most part, like there's been this huge like cultural like rejection of certain like new policies for like microtransactions and DLCs. Like if your game has microtransactions and it affects gameplay at all, your game will not survive, because people just don't put up with that shit. Why would if I want to do pay to win, I would pick up another gacha game. That being said, like, all right, Fate Grand Order is already. I'm married to that game. I'm already married to that shit. I cannot afford another gacha game. But like, if I was gonna pay to win, I may as well just play a fucking gacha game or some shit like that. Now, cosmetics are fine. Like, TF2 has thrived for fucking ever. And by God, I love fucking TF2 because it doesn't take itself too seriously. This is kind of disjointed, but like for anybody that's aspiring to make something, one of the best quotes I ever heard, and it's another guy that inspires me to be a creator, is Ego Raptor, Aaron Hansen from the Game Grumps. Is he does this review series called Sequelitis. He's only made a couple, but each one is an absolute pop off banger. Like, not that he needs any press from like me, but what did he say? It was about the nature of making Ocarina of Time. Um, Pay to win is 100% garbage. But yeah, I know cosmetics. People will always buy cosmetics because fuck it, yeah. Like cosmetics are absolutely the way to go because if as long as they don't affect gameplay. But after I say this quote, I'm gonna get into what has gone wrong with cosmetics as of recently. But Aaron was talking about the transition from 2D to 3D between what was it? A Link to the Past, not A Link Between Worlds. That's the newer one. A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time is the more precise you try to make a reality, the more you have to stipulate on that reality. It's like, oh, we've got the most realistic this and that. You don't actually need that to make something good. Like, I think that's probably the biggest failing of, like, Cyberpunk, and it's, like, why it was such a fucking clusterfuck is, like, oh, wow, we've stipulated on reality so that it's basically, like, a perfect altered reality. It's like, no, suspension of disbelief exists in humans. We're not, like, fucking perfect machines. And suspension of disbelief is your best friend as a creator. As long as you don't, like, drag it into the spotlight, typically, if it's not legitimately a glaring plot hole, people will ignore it or suspend their disbelief on it. Like, if you've got a game about a gargoyle that's flying through the skies, like, you don't fucking tell people, like, well, the stone is fluted and, like, it's this and this so he can fly and da-da-da-da, like a pterosaur with hollow bones and da-da-da. No. Please don't do that. No, don't do that. That's not... Just have him fly. If he's got wings on him, people will not question how he can fly. Or if they are, they'll do it in jest because... If you start questioning that kind of stuff, you're just taking it too seriously.